My 13-year-old acts like a puppy again.
Almost overnight, she's a different dog.
Perfect poops.
When people switch their dog's food to the farmer's dog, the effects can seem like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply real meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of highly processed pellets. No tricks, just smarter, healthier pet food delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do. Get 50% off your first order at thefarmersdog.com/nomagicfifty.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
This is Kansas State's Felix Enyedike Uzama, and you're listening to the Power Cat Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network. Make sure you're subscribing to this show on your favorite podcast provider.
Welcome to another edition of the Power Cat Questions Podcast, brought to you by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Cole Carmody, Ryan Gilbert, right here in the GPC studios with two adorable but ornery dogs. Make sure you get into the fridge. Go check out what they have. I know it's a couple road games here, but whenever you're in Manhattan, make sure you stop by the fridge. They can help you with your entertainment needs, and I mean that in every way. Go in there and ask for bourbon and wine recommendations, maybe some beer and even vodka recommendations, and then get into their favorite TV shows and possibly concerts. And if any of them like to go to live theater, just talk to the staff about all that. They can help with any kind of entertainment needs you need. But don't ask for Die Hard on VHS, because the younger people don't have any clue what you're talking about.
I think Cole and Gills barely know what we're talking about.
I guess you're calling me young.
I'll call you a punk. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan Gilbert. I'm so glad you're here. It's always more fulfilling when you're here. Just because
you get some better eye candy.
Well, that's all I'm about. I'm about the eye candy. And this is ear candy if you're interested in K-State football. K-State sports. Here's how it works. If you're a subscriber at GoPowerCat.com, you can ask us the questions. If you're not a subscriber to GoPowerCat.com, you can still hear the answers. But make sure you consider, just give us a chance. Come over. $1 for a month to get a test drive. What you got to lose? $1? Yeah. Ryan Gilbert will give it back to you if you don't like it. Because he gets paid a lot in ones. That's the truth. It does.
It is true.
It is.
But he's not going to give you your money back.
No.
That's not how that works.
There was like a asterisk, like a vocal asterisk there that you couldn't see or hear. You ain't getting your money back. We're going to keep that dollar and spend it on the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Let's get to your questions from Wabash Station. I'm going to make Cole read the first half because I don't know what we've got for the first and second half.
There's only one basketball question.
It's in the second half?
It's in the second half.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make Ryan Gilbert read the first half, like I said. And then we'll get to basketball in the second half, so he'd be poised to strike like a cobra.
I'm the backup getting the start, though, for the first half.
Wow. Don't burn your red shirt. Don't burn your red shirt.
It's okay, Jerry.
I think he's only participated in like 3 podcasts this fall, so that he still might keep his eligibility.
Okay, this is the last one.
Okay, Jerry, let's go. Here's your questions from Wabash Station with the one, the only, thank God, Ryan Gilbert.
From 3G Wildcat, I feel like Adrian Martinez and the coaches had a let's try for 0 turnovers mentality and called and executed safer plays for Martinez versus Howard. Do both Martinez and the coaches play a more open style now that the turnovers have occurred?
I don't totally disagree with that. I think they were certainly calling plays predicated on who was at quarterback, and I think that's obvious. I don't think they can even try to argue against that, but I don't think they weren't trying to turn it over, but I almost feel like Adrian was being overly cautious and then totally misread a linebacker and where he was at on that play and threw the interception. And I asked him about it. Is it good to have it over with? And kind of said, yeah. I mean, you don't have to think about it. He said, not that I was thinking about it, but now it's out of the way. We got it done.
But I understand this question, but do you ever have a play in your playbook or a game plan that's like, all right, let's not try for 0 turnovers? I understand this question is insinuating that they are more risky with Will Howard. And maybe I get that. I understand that. But I would also say that rushing your quarterback 16 times during the game is kind of risky, right? I mean, that's not the difference between throwing it 35 times a game versus 25 times a game and running the quarterback 16 times a game versus running the quarterback 3 times a game. I would almost say that running your quarterback that often is almost more risky for your game plan than throwing it around that much. The deal is interceptions are going to happen. People got frustrated on Saturday night because they felt like Will Howard would have been different. If the outcome of the game would have been different had Will Howard been in the game. We'll never know. I'm sure that conversation will get brought up in this podcast, so I'll save that conversation for then. But
it really won't.
I mean,
I don't think it will.
At the end of the day, the difference between Adrian Martinez and Will Howard is simple. Will Howard is a passing quarterback, is a pocket passer. Adrian Martinez is an athletic, outside of the pocket, rushing the football, throwing intermediate routes. That is the reality of the situation. The two players are completely different. You're comparing apples to oranges. And if you want to say that Will Howard would have won the game for K-State, I do not agree with you, because you know how many times Will Howard would have got sacked in that game where Adrian Martinez completely evaded the rush? Did he have 2 turnovers? Sure. But guess what? The defense created 2 turnovers. The turnover battle was even. There's a reason that it's called a turnover battle. There are 2 sides who were trying to turn the ball over. This is not a one-sided street. I get so frustrated when people have this notion that Adrian Martinez lost K-State the game, because he did not. He played one of his better games of the season that just so happened to have one bad pass that the Texas linebacker made a good play on that led to points for the Longhorns. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, and to your point, Adrian Martinez, the play calls that he gets are a safer style of football than what you'll get with Will Howard. Will Howard probably, if he was the quarterback for the last 8-9 games, he'd throw some interceptions.
Yeah.
He'd throw more than one than what Adrian Martinez has thrown. And really, the way that the linebacker dropped back, not really expected. You know, Adrian didn't. He said that he didn't really expect him to be back that far. So, you know, one interception like that, you know, the fumble was just kind of, you know, it's at the end of the game. That's what happens when your back's against the wall at the end of a game like that. But no, I think it's 2 different styles of football, and one just happens to be safer than the other. And, you know, Will Howard showed that his was a little bit more exciting, and, you know, he didn't really turn the ball over, and he got the job done. But I don't, you know, to your point, I don't think that Will Howard wins that football game any differently, because you look at the first half and it was all on the defense.
It is 2 different styles of playing.
I'm trying to distract Gills. I'm sorry.
This is why I always stutter and
I know
can't talk straight. They're 2 different styles of playing, but at the end of the day, it's all mental, and it's about making those decisions, right? Martinez clearly is more conservative with the football. The play calling is obviously more conservative with him in there, but his decisions are conservative as well. I mean, Rubley had was it just 1 pass attempt against TCU, and it was awful, and it got picked. So Martinez is probably more hesitant to pull the trigger than Howard is. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me. Obviously, the play calling is different, but Howard just goes out there and plays. And I think Martinez still has something in the back of his mind that he's just afraid to turn the ball over. And let's not forget, Martinez could have 4 or 5, interceptions on the season already. I couldn't go back and name you every single one of them, but there's been a few passes where you hold your breath and you think. I mean, Malik Knowles had a defensive play basically as a wideout where he had to, prevent an interception. So Martinez has, had some, questionable decisions, but I think those questionable ones stay in the back of his mind, and that's why he's a little bit more conservative.
I think we're also not taking into account that the Oklahoma State secondary was absolutely awful when Will Howard threw the ball. Mm-hmm. They were terrible. We're not taking into account in the first half of the game against TCU, that the TCU defensive backs were absolutely terrible. This is a week in, week out thing with those defenses. I'm not discrediting anything that Will Howard did, but I'm just saying it was the perfect storm for Will Howard to have success. And Ryan, I understand your point, but if we're going to count almost interceptions, think about how many almost interceptions that K-State has had this season too. I understand the argument with that, and I get that. I really do. But the bottom line is Adrian Martinez has had one interception on the entire season, and people still, to this day, would rather have Will Howard play because, like I always say, the backup quarterback is the most wanted person on every football team. They're the most likable person. It doesn't matter who it is.
I don't know about Chad Henne.
Well, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But if there's ever a quote-unquote quarterback controversy, the backup will get the benefit of the doubt over the starter every single day of the week. That's just how people are.
Until a few weeks ago, though, I don't think many people were really
Well, this is why this is
static
also,
about Will Howard.
Yeah, this is why this argument is
But
ridiculous.
now people love him.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door.
Stay tuned in the third half of this podcast when we actually do compare apples and oranges. We should just spend a whole half on that.
One's a citrus and one's not.
I know. It'd be
There you
interesting.
go.
From Elton64, why did Chris Kleiman end the game with 2 timeouts in his pocket? Adrian Martinez would have benefited greatly in that closing drive. And this is something he talked about today in his press conference.
Well, they were going to take a timeout after the play, and the play was a fumble. He wanted to be able to use those last 2 timeouts as they got closer to the goal line. I mean, let's be honest. They had to make another play to even make it tangible, and Adrian hung around in the pocket, was trying to find a receiver, and got the ball stripped. I don't fault Adrian Martinez for that because I think normally he might have been looking to run earlier, but he was determined to try to find a receiver to get the ball further down the field instead of using up a bunch of time scrambling. So that was just good play by Texas.
So
K-State had its timeout. They were going to call a timeout because the first down stopped the clock for 10, 15 seconds. Then they were going to call a timeout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Texas rushed through on that play. You have your NFL offensive guard who is double teaming a nose guard who really isn't even trying to rush the passer at that point. They kind of, the defense, let me take that back. The defensive end slanted in. The nose guard went the other way. And so you had one guy who, Hayden Gillum, is basically just kind of out there hanging out. I understand the process. But if there was any way, right, to make sure that you want the guy single blocked, if there's any offensive lineman that you want to single block somebody, you got to have Cooper Beebe be that guy who single blocks a defensive lineman. There's no reason you need to leave your true sophomore Hadley Panzer out there on the end. I get that there was some protection that, that's usually the offensive line. It's a spur of the moment type of thing, and I get that a guy slanted that way, so credit Texas for knowing they're going to try and isolate Hadley Panzer. I'd have to go back and look, but that was one thing where I didn't, I'm sure looking at the film, the coaches realized, okay, crap. If we're going to have somebody single block in those situations, it needs to be Cooper Beebe. Like, he's a guy who can handle anybody. But, yeah, I think the timeout situation is I understand why people are frustrated, but if you want to be frustrated about the time management, be frustrated with the time management on the drive before that.
Yes.
Don't be frustrated on the last drive because they had the ball. Whenever they had the ball, they were going to have to score no matter what. Be frustrated on the drive before that. And they should have, if you want to talk about taking timeouts, you could make the argument that they should have took a timeout there when they're all discombobulated and Adrian Martinez is up at the line of scrimmage telling each individual person what play they're going to run, only for it to be an inside zone that got 2 yards. So if you want to be frustrated with the time management on that drive, because I feel like as soon as they kicked a field goal, the odds went way down that they were going to have a chance to tie that game as soon as they kicked that field goal.
I mean, how many seconds were wasted with everyone looking at the sideline waiting for the play to come in on that drive? And even the drive after, you have Ben Sinnott celebrating a first down. Yes, the clock has stopped, but he's doing his little first down motion like it's the first quarter and it's 7-0. Like, it's just like the sense of urgency, not only from the coaching staff, but the players in that moment. It just seemed like the recognition that they were down 7, they needed to score. There's less than 2 minutes on the clock. It didn't seem like.
I agree.
It felt like K-State, like it was overtime, basically. Like there was no clock. They just had to keep getting first downs and eventually score, and they can continue the game. It felt like the clock didn't matter at all.
And that's
at that point.
It's on the guy calling the plays.
Yeah,
that's my belief anyway. Because really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you get a play call in, and no matter what the look is, you run it. Like, I understand that people are like, oh, they want to try and call the perfect play for the perfect look, but you can run any play against any formation, right? There's option routes that receivers can take. There's offensive linemen know how to adjust to certain formations. That's what they prepare for during the week. You call the play and you run it, and if it doesn't work, then you get on the ball and you run the next play. The way that they handled that first or that second to last drive was just bad. It just was.
And for a 2-minute drill, how you don't have something completely scripted that you know is going to work against, like you say, any offense or any defense. And when you're passing the ball like that, the defense is going to play a little soft. You're going to be able to complete passes and get them to the sidelines and stop the clock. So, as we saw with, Tom Brady on Sunday, I don't want to compare Adrian Martinez to Tom Brady, but
Martinez is better than that. Yeah.
My point is,
It's not fair to Martinez.
you can run a competent offense in 45 seconds and score a touchdown from midfield.
Right.
It's not hard. It's really not hard to move the ball down the field at the end of a game if you manage your time correctly.
Take
and in
what
the
defense
NFL,
gives you.
in the NFL, the clock doesn't stop if you get tackled on a first down in the middle of the field. So you even have that advantage in college that you can get a first down and throw over the middle of the field and run down and clock it, and you don't lose much time. So just the end of the game was frustrating. It felt like everything was moving in like K-State was moving in slow motion and the clock was moving at regular pace.
And maybe I'm crazy, but until I saw that fumble go into the grasp of the Texas Longhorns player, I still felt like K-State had a chance. Just because the way
felt like
that
they had a
it was
chance,
developed.
yes, but
They
were
2 timeouts.
They
so-
were, and they had 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
But I think, complaining about Chris Kleiman having 2 timeouts at the end, I don't think that's as big of a deal because there was enough time for them to get down the field and use them. Like the opportunity was there to use them, if the fumble didn't happen. So, yeah, it can be frustrating that you could have pointed at certain times where they could have called a timeout, but I think that, the timeouts is kind of a moot point versus the time management overall as a whole, because the concerns I have are not about when you call a timeout. It's about get your play in, spike the ball, do whatever. You don't need all 4. You don't need all 4 plays on a first down, or when you're at the end of the game. You can take care of it in 3 plays.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Time management was bad, but at the end of the day, that's not why K-State lost the game. It's because Martinez fumbled the ball.
Well,
I mean, no, but yes.
At the very end it is,
Yeah.
but not
K-State
Right.
did not lose because it ran out of time and had to just chuck one up to the end zone, right? Obviously, the time
No.
management was bad, but I mean, where were they at the Texas 40 maybe when he fumbled that?
Close 50, other
Okay.
side of the 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was bad. I'm not trying to defend it at all. I'm just saying that time management really didn't lose K-State the game, in my opinion. I guess you guys might disagree, but the fumble was what ultimately lost them the game.
Yeah, at the very end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
From Third Gen Wildcat, I'm not sure what K-State's run-pass ratio has actually been, but it seems to me that the offense runs better with a 50-50 or 60-40 ratio favoring the pass, not the run. Agree or disagree? Depends who's playing quarterback.
Yeah. It depends on the team you're playing. I mean, you just can't make those wild statements about because every team's different. How they're defending you, what they're giving you, what they're trying to take away. I don't know. I kind of feel like when you got Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn, you probably want to run the ball.
Rapid fire question, Fitz. Okay, are you ready for this? Are you ready on your toes? I'm going to throw it to you really quickly.
Oh, yeah, I'm on my toes.
K-State's best offensive position group.
That would, of course, be receiver. No, let's get serious here. Best, overall,
Offensive position group.
quarterback.
Okay.
I mean,
What's their worst offensive positions group?
receiver to me.
So if you say
And that's something we're not talking about. Part of the disorganization was the fact that they had 2 new receivers in and not the same receivers they've been using the whole game. And those guys, honestly, they weren't ready to be out there.
So is your starting quarterback a better thrower or a better runner?
He's a better runner, I can tell you that.
Okay, so let me just, off of those two basic statements, then throwing the ball would not be your best decision if you wanted to try and move the ball down the field and score points. Based solely off of answering the question that the receivers are the worst position group and your running quarterback is your best, quote-unquote, position group, I would make the argument that your offensive line as a collective is probably better than your two quarterbacks, but that's neither here nor there. This team...
I haven't seen that on a consistent basis.
You have not?
I certainly didn't see it against Texas. I saw it against Oklahoma State, and then it went away.
I would think, for the most part, that the run attack, this team is built to run the football. That's just the basic. That's just the fundamental fact. You have a running quarterback. You have one of the best running backs in college football. You have a really good interior offensive line when it comes to running the ball. Ryan Wallace put something up on our message boards that talked about when Deuce Vaughn ran between the tackles, and the data shows that, wow, hint, hint, he's actually pretty good at it. Yeah, I think that this team needs to run the ball more than they need to pass the ball as a whole. Then when you take into consideration game planning, sure. But this team's bread and butter is running the football, which is why Adrian Martinez got the nod as starting quarterback and why he's going to start the rest of the season.
Okay, so what do you guys feel like the percentage of time Kansas State runs the ball versus passes? Without looking at the stats, what do you...
55.
55 run, 45 pass?
I would say it's probably closer 60-40 run pass.
Okay.
Are you taking into account called pass plays
No, I'm just taking
or just run?
How they ended up, yeah. So that does include some called pass plays that end up scrambles.
50-50.
Cole's nailed it. Cole, it's exactly 60-40.
Gosh, he's so
run.
smart.
I know. That's why he's the head of the class. That's why.
Wow.
Yeah. That's just how it works.
Which tells you they think that their best opportunity is to get 20 to the football.
But that seems like a good piece of coaching right there. It does. Although he wasn't as effective on Saturday. I'm just going to say it. Folks, you can look around for all the reasons why Kansas State lost against Texas. It was coaching. It was quarterback. It was the defense. Texas was better. That's it. That's it. Texas was better overall in the game. They were better athletes. They were better coached.
Created
they were
turnovers.
Better prepared. They created crucial turnovers. They did all the things you need to do to win, and yet Kansas State, playing a superior athletic team, was in the game in the fourth quarter with a chance to tie or win. And you know what? I feel like despite the deficiencies in this game from the quarterbacks or the running backs or the receivers or the defense or the coaches, that says something about the team. They didn't surrender the fight. They kept going. This isn't a flawless team. The talent isn't where they need to be elite in this conference. If you turn around and look at when Kansas State won Big 12 titles, they had some really elite talent. They have a really elite running back. They've got some good defenders, but they just don't have the depth and the quality yet. It's still a work in progress. You've got to build that up. Kansas State's not a program where a Coach Kleiman or any other coach can take over and say, 5 stars, we're just now going to get them. We're going to flip the switch, and we're just going to get all the best players in the country. That's not how it works. You've got to kind of build up to it, and we're seeing that build up in 2023 where the quality's going up. You just got to keep climbing. And so, let's see what I did there. Just keep climbing. Okay.
K-State played a C-plus game. Texas played probably a B-plus to an A game.
Yep.
The last time they played an A game, they lost by 3 points to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They just so happened to come in and play an A first half, maybe an A-plus first half. In the second half, they looked like Texas.
So let me get this right. So if Kansas State does play Alabama in a bowl game, Kansas State's going to lose by 4?
No.
It would technically be 10.
By 90.
10? But, I'm sorry, bad at math.
Yeah, something like that.
Last question of the first half.
Hang a banner up.
Yeah, hang a banner.
Lost by 10 to Alabama.
Nice. From Go Stay Kate, last question of the first half. I keep hearing people being negative towards players and coaches on social media, but I don't personally see it. Are the negative minority given too much attention?
Yes, and you also have to be cautious. A lot of times the negative comments come from an account you've never seen before. And that doesn't mean it's just some quiet fan that's disgruntled or drunk. It's probably not a K-State fan. And how do I know this? Because I know K-Staters have KU burner accounts. Everyone does it to their rival. They want to make their rival look bad, and so they put out stuff that makes their rival look bad, pretending to be them. I'm always really cautious. We see K-State or a Power Cat in their picture, and you're like, oh, it's a K-Stater. Come on. It may not be, particularly if it's an account you just have never heard from. But with that said, I still see stuff on our message board, and I know they're K-Staters running down some players, wanting Kleiman fired. Come on. I mean, what is that? People just get into their emotions and say stuff. People vent. And it used to be back in the day, you would scream at your TV, yell at the top of your lungs, scold the dog, be mean to your family, maybe even break your TV. And now you just go on social media and make an ass of yourself. And how do I know this? Because I've done it. So, I mean, it's just how we handle things in society now, and it's stupid.
It's not just K-State sports.
It's everywhere.
It's not just K-State sports.
And I get sick of people trying to say it's K-State sports. I mean, you see it from every fan base, and then you see it people pretending to be fans, and yeah.
It's not just sports. It's every walk of life, too.
Oh, exactly.
But also, this has gone on for years where players, and not just K-State players, any players, they'll have a column on their tweet deck with their name in it. They'll read anything that's said about them, good or bad. And after a loss, they'll find the bad. So,
and that's the other thing. It's like poking the cavity with your tongue. You seek that out. Yeah. After a loss. It's just weird. We're all weird. We're all screwed up.
I just don't understand people that do this, though. Like, I mean, we can sit here and say, don't pay attention to it. And I agree. Don't pay attention to it. But if you're one of these people that has this attitude, I understand, because it can be rough, especially when you're so emotionally invested into what you're doing. If you are a diehard fan who lives and dies K-State, because that has been me, you know, when I was in high school and all that kind of stuff. But it's important to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And when you do that, you realize that this program is on an upwards trajectory. K-State basketball is on an upwards trajectory. And of all the schools in this conference, K-State is on the right track compared to all these other schools. And they're set up to be one of the best programs in the whole entire new Big 12 conference. When you look at it like that, you can't help but smile.
Yep, I agree with that. The people I really can't explain are the ones that, you know, sure, people lash out against the quarterback or the coach, and, you know, that had a direct impact on the game. The ones that start attacking other people, you know, they just start like spraying the machine gun fire at anyone who gets in their range, and man, get some emotional help.
You can tweet at me and get mad at me. That happened. That happened to me this weekend. I had people mad at me.
At Cole Carmody. What did they say?
I said, if you're going to blame Adrian Martinez for the loss, you're no better than the Nebraska fans who booed him off the field. Well, that kind of triggered some Nebraska fans, and it triggered some K-State fans too.
Good.
So,
way to trigger the peeps.
Yep.
Cole hates everybody.
Cole hates all. But Cole will be back after this break, along with the rest of us. The dogs are being surprisingly good. That'll probably change in the second half of the Power Cat Questions podcast, sponsored by The Fridge.
This is Kansas State's Cooper Beebe. The leaders in K-State sports coverage will be right back with more of the Power Cat podcast.
Getting the crew together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door. Which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found Care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out Care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
This is Kansas State's Daniel Green, and welcome back to the PowerCat Podcast on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions Podcast. You should have heard the discussion in the break. I have no idea what's going on in the studio. I'm completely lost.
There's some tension.
There is. We just got a little tension in here. I mean, we're like fighting with everyone. The dogs are pretty relaxed. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Naps Carlson. It's going to be a nickname.
What's my nickname?
Gills.
When can I get a new one? Can I request a nickname trade?
Yeah, sure. What do you want?
I thought you're not supposed to come up with your own.
That's why I'm going to say no, so it doesn't matter what we come up with.
I say he trades nicknames with Hayden Gillum, and we call him Gilly.
Ooh, I like that.
I'll take it.
How about we actually give you the nickname what we call you? That'd be head. Now I got something to edit. Hey, we're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. I'm looking on their social media here. There's no nudes. Really disappointed. But there is a new product at the Fridge called Grape Vodka Transfusion. Now, if you're one of those weirdos that likes ginger beer, which actually is regular beer but made by redheads, it's got that in it. It's got vodka in it. It's got grape flavoring in it. That actually looks like something I might try, even though I don't like ginger beer. But this one's intriguing. And I bet you our old friend, who we can't mention on this podcast anymore because he works for the competition, Relegates, would really like this new product because I'm kind of intrigued by it.
It's Crown Royal.
Crown Royal Salted Caramel. It's going to be worth a try. Vanilla's pretty good. He likes the peach, I think, which is just weird. He likes the apple. He likes the apple. Yeah, but I might give that a shot. I haven't drank Crown in a long time, but I am a big salted caramel fan. And I even say it caramel, not caramel, because I'm a damn fine American.
Do you have a jar of caramels upstairs?
I used to, but then I'd eat them all, which is kind of what the purpose of them are. Anyhow, questions from Wabash Station. Onward we go. Cole's taking over. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go.
From everyone's favorite, Adam K63.
Whose favorite?
Man.
Not mine.
I see him every week in the damn press box, and he asks me questions. And I'm like, hey, Adam, how you doing, man?
Hey, you get one a week, Adam, and it's on this podcast.
Is there an officiating problem in the Big 12 Conference?
No, I actually think it's been pretty good this year. I didn't think it was great Saturday. Honestly, it felt like an old-time Texas game where they got all the calls, and that hasn't been necessarily true lately. I thought it was pretty shoddy. But look, let's get to the call that most people are upset about. It's the Julius Brents targeting call. And by the rule, as Chris Kleiman said on Tuesday, that was the proper call. The problem with it isn't the call. It's the rule.
Mm-hmm.
That was a defenseless receiver, and as Chris Kleiman said, but he's got a split second to determine he's defenseless because he dropped the ball. If he catches the ball and starts to make a move, then he's not defenseless. He didn't lead with his headgear. He led with his shoulder. He didn't intend to impact the face. The guy kind of leaned down into it because why? He dropped the ball. So it was a crappy circumstance. Look, at the end of the day, they need to determine intent. His intent was to break up a pass play, not injure. And we've all seen targeting calls where it's clear they're intending to injure. They pin their arms back, they lead with their helmet, they intentionally drop with all their weight on top of a quarterback. We saw Skylar Thompson get speared, in this throwing motion. I get all that, but there was no intent to injure the opposing player. His intent was to hit him hard, which is called, ready? This is going to be controversial, football. And so the problem is the rule, not the application. I'm tired of this stuff. Football's a violent sport.
There's a simple answer to this. Now, during the break, we may or may not have been talking about the sport that no one in America likes, soccer.
Have fun.
In soccer, there is a yellow card and there is a red card. 2 yellow cards equals a red card. If you get a red card, you can't play anymore. This is pretty simple. Targeting one is a yellow card.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's your first one. If you do it again during the game, guess what? That's your second yellow card. What did we say earlier? 2 yellow cards equals a red? You're done. Guess what? Targeting 2, that's a red card. If you try to hurt him, if there's intent to injure, If there's malicious contact that is avoidable, that is targeting 2. That is a red card. You are done. This is simple. End of discussion. Shouldn't even be brought up. This needs to be a rule that's changed.
That was pointing to you to go to the next question, unless you've got something else.
My problem with officiating in the Big 12 is unnecessary announcements from the referees.
Oh, it's obnoxious.
Especially the guy that shows off his muscles.
Scott Campbell?
Sure.
In reality, he's actually the worst. That's the worst crew in this conference.
He's so worried about his image. I mean, it's like, I'm in charge here. That was a first down. That was ruled a first down on the field. Well, no crap. The runner made it past the first down stick, Scott. Thanks for the announcement.
Never forget last year when at the coin toss he said, "Gentlemen, welcome to Farmageddon."
That was pretty funny, though.
I mean, it was, yeah, but still.
I think they actually improved their officiating. I think they brought in some good new white hats. I didn't like the crew Saturday. I thought they didn't call an evenly applicated game. I almost felt like they were trying to make up for pitiful Texas fans who whined about all the penalties they had against Oklahoma State, even though most of those penalties were pre-snap self-imposed penalties, not judgment calls. Still, I mean, overall, I think they did a good job of going out and hiring officials to replace some of their main guys, and we got rid of some bad white hats, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was it, Mike DeFee? I thought he was pretty good, but the other guys were trash, and I think they've done a good job. Now, if you want bad officiating, go to the Pac-12, where apparently it sounds like the Big 12 stole the best Pac-12 white hat, and he's now working the league. So it's quite interesting.
This answer for basketball is going to be way different when we have this conversation in 2 months.
Well, and here's what's really fascinating to me. Well, basketball officials work all kinds of leagues, but if everything goes down as we think it will, and eventually some Pac-12 teams move into the Big 12, will the Big 12 be able to resist the temptation of just hiring some of the Pac-12 crews to work Big 12 games and inherit their problems with officials, or do they go out and try to find other ones? I would almost prefer, if you see a Pac-12 crew that's stinking it up, go get a Mountain West crew. Go get someone who doesn't think they're elite officials already and make them earn it. So, I mean, if there's bad officiating, it's not the Big 12, it's the Pac-12. So stay away from that.
Next question comes from Cliff Clavin 754. The West Virginia kickoff time is another 6-day hold. Does the new TV deal allow for this crappy practice to continue? I thought the TV could only hold games twice a season.
Yeah, I got a Cliff, if that's your real name. I've been confused by that. They've had a lot of holds this year, and I don't know how it works. And I thought it was per entity, and now we've got a league-wide hold next week. I just texted someone from West Virginia, because here's the question. If K-State loses this weekend, in all likelihood, that's going to be an ESPN Plus game. And that means it'll be up to West Virginia to pick the kickoff time when it works for them. Some people at K-State suspect that they would want a night game because they're better at night in Morgantown. I think they might want to just get the game played. So, for every person at West Virginia who thinks the team's better at night is someone in the administration's like, but the fans are drunker. We don't want to deal with that. So I will be intrigued to see. But boy, I tell you what, I'm almost happy they're a night game this week, because they've played 3 road games. They're 2-1 in those games. They played so well in the first half against TCU. This team's been good in night games on the road. They've played some of their best football going on the road at night. And I'm glad they're not breaking that cycle for this game, because this is a big contest. I feel like with West Virginia, it doesn't matter as much. I think West Virginia might be done by the time K-State gets there. We'll see. But for this game, hey, they've played 3 games on the road. They've all been night games. Stick with it. It works fine for me. But boy, from a personal standpoint, it kind of pushes the limits with work.
West Virginia is going to be done. They got to play Oklahoma this week. They're going to lose that game. They're going to lose that game by 2 scores. Neil Brown's going to get fired. That is my hot take.
If West Virginia shows up with the money and says, "Here, Neil, we do not want you anymore. Here is your bag. Now leave," I do not see that happening. You can color me shocked if that happens.
Either way, they're going to be, say they lose this game, they're going to be 3-7. All bowl eligibility will be most likely out of the question. They still get to play Oklahoma, K-State, Oklahoma State. Even with the third-string quarterback, I don't think they beat Oklahoma State, and I don't think they beat K-State or OU. So they're barreling towards a 3-10 season or 3-9 season, excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think this would be a night game. I really wouldn't, but I would think that they would try and bury this game, to be completely honest with you. They want their fans to see this, and their fans only. So it wouldn't surprise me either way.
Is it that
if this is ESPN
this game's going to be on OnlyFans? I thought that's what you just said. Huh? Oh, you said fans only. That's a different website. Okay, sorry, Zach. Don't. You can cancel your subscriptions.
Gills?
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
From El Camino Cat, handicap the various paths to the Big 12 championship game for the remaining contenders.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part of that. What?
Handicap the various paths to the Big 12 championship.
The paths.
The remaining contenders. TCU.
Basically, you got to win. Everyone's playing everyone. Someone goes 3-0, you're probably in.
TCU minus 300 right now?
Yeah. I mean, TCU's got to collapse, and I don't see them collapsing. I mean, even if
they're too talented. They have too much talent on their roster with too much momentum to just absolutely poop down their leg down the stretch.
Okay. Wow. That's good. Okay. Let's look at it this way. Let's say TCU loses to Texas, and then TCU loses to Baylor. They got 2 losses. But here's the catch. Texas and Baylor still have to play, so one of those teams is going to get a third loss. And if they end up tied with K-State with 2 losses, they've got the tiebreaker. So TCU's almost locked in. They'd have to lose all 3, basically. K-State wins all 3, they're in. If you're a K-Stater, you're a TCU fan right now. You've already got the loss to them. You want them to beat everyone, and you want to win out, and you're in. You're going to play TCU in the championship game. I mean, you can get into the weeds all you want, but I look at this from K-State's perspective. You got to win. That's all you can control is go win, and these teams will knock each other off, and I think you're in. But, man, winning 3 games in this conference, winning 3 in a row, that's what's the most impressive thing that TCU's done. They're winning games after games after game. It's so competitive every week, and they're finding a way to win. You can look at their faults. You can find that they're bad in the first half. All that matters is what happens at the end of the game, and they're winning games. Now, do I think Texas wins this weekend? Yeah, I do, actually. But that still means there's more work to be done. And really, when you get down to it, the biggest threat now to Kansas State not making it to Arlington is Texas, because you just gave up the tiebreaker to them.
Let me ask you guys this. I think the easiest way to answer this question is to go through and look at the 3 most logical, I think we can all agree, Big 12 championship contenders. K-State, Texas, TCU.
Oh, Baylor's right in there.
And you can throw Baylor in there too, but Baylor is they have to play these teams still, so that they're kind of included in this. I have the schedules pulled up. Let's just go ahead and talk about this TCU-Texas game. Fitz, you said you think Texas is going to win this game. You do. Okay. I'm not completely sold on Texas. If I was a gambling advice, and I'm sure you guys, I know you guys will talk about this on the pregame podcast. There's a reason I'm not on there, and Mr. Ryan Gilbert is.
Shouldn't be, but
I think TCU has a great chance to win that game. They're a touchdown underdog. I think the disrespect is so real for TCU. If they play anywhere like they have throughout the whole entire parts of the season, take away the first half against Texas Tech, I think they win that game. I just can't see Texas putting 4 quarters together against a team that's very talented. So I think TCU will win that game. And then you look at, they play Baylor and Iowa State. That Baylor game for them will be tough. Going on the road, that's going to be tough. I think they'll take care of Iowa State. But, I mean, like we talked about, TCU seems like a lock, right? They seem like a lock to get in. Texas plays TCU, KU, Baylor. I just don't see how they play 12 quarters of consecutive good football, because that's what they have to do. If you don't play 12 consecutive good quarters in this 3-game stretch, you will lose.
Yep.
You just will. So I think that either comes against TCU or honestly Kansas. I think those are the 2 games that you look at and say, Texas will lose one of those games. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm kind of curious to know your opinion on that.
Who does Baylor have left?
Baylor has TCU, Texas, and K-State.
Tough.
I don't think there's any way they get in.
No, it's a brutal line of games for them.
K-State honestly probably has the best remaining schedule of the 3 teams.
I would agree.
Best remaining schedule, but based on tiebreakers, just with TCU and Texas, they're on the outside looking in.
Fair. But again, it just is.
Because, I mean, if a Texas win against TCU, and that is, I don't want to call it a dagger for K-State, but that is a serious blow.
Well,
when
again,
it comes to tiebreakers.
I mean, all you can control is your team. They've got to win out. And then, I mean, if Texas is good enough to go 3-0 down the stretch also, so be it.
If they go 3-0 down the stretch, they're winning the conference.
Yeah.
So they're going to beat TCU again. If they're really playing that good, they will. And
that comes down to this. Do you think do you think Texas can be consistent enough to do that? Hell, they can't even play a consistent game. They're horrible in the second half. I mean, Ryan Gilbert, will you be betting Texas in the first half against TCU and then TCU in the second half against Texas? Because that's the way this whole season's gone for these two teams. I can see Texas getting up 3 touchdowns in the first half like they did against K-State and then completely blowing it in the second half because TCU is like, okay, now we're going to play football, because that's what they've done all year.
What's more likely? K-State wins out or Texas wins out?
K-State.
Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line.
But I will be picking Baylor this weekend. Why? Because I don't like the matchup. I've fallen for this trap before with games at Baylor. And plus, when I pick K-State to lose, they typically win. Reverse psychology.
Last question of the podcast comes from Old Three Putt.
Ooh, Three Putt.
Do you think Jerome Tang will turn the K-State basketball program around as fast as Lance Leipold has turned the KU football program around?
That's apples and oranges. Turning football around immediately is immensely more difficult, and Jerome Tang just has proven it. He literally took his entire roster except 2 guys and said, go play somewhere else. Now, do I think there's a couple guys they should have probably kept? Yeah, maybe. But I think there was more here than just talent at play. He wanted to get rid of culture. He wanted to reinvent the culture in the locker room as much as anything. So, I mean, you can't get rid of 80% of your roster in football and reload. So it just takes a while. What Lance Leipold's done in Lawrence is amazing. It really is. It's impressive.
Especially this year with how good the conference is.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And again, I've said this everywhere. It's not that they're winning. It's that, and this is a subtle distinction, they're not losing, because in the past, KU would just know we're going to lose. We're going to lose. We're going to find a way. We've played well for 3 quarters. We're going to lose. Now they get down at halftime, and they're like, we're going to win. That's a hard thing to teach a group of guys in the locker room, particularly 85 men in the locker room. So it's impressive. Jerome Tang's taken over K-State. He just ran off everyone except 2, first-year transfers at the program who weren't as ingrained in the culture as anyone else, and brought in a bunch of guys that, we were under the impression K-State wasn't allowed to have these kind of athletic players. So, I mean, it comes down to evaluation. I didn't see a bunch of people out there rioting to add Naquan Tomlin to their roster. That dude can play hoops. So, yeah, I mean, I think K-State basketball has turned around. And this is why I say that. I'm not measuring it by wins and losses and where they're in the NCAA tournament or the Big 12. This team has promise and has a foundation upon which the program can be built. And I don't suspect that there'll be mass exodus of players off of this roster at the end of the year, which we saw time and time again. Yeah, Jerome Tang opened up 11 scholarships, but there were times when Kansas State had 7 or 8 open scholarships with the returning coaching staff that had been there for a long time. So he's rebuilding the culture in that locker room, and that has to come first before you get everything else. They just do stuff so different. Remind me, Zach, that'll be my daily delivery for Wednesday. The locker room.
Sounds good.
I wouldn't be surprised if every single player that doesn't, graduate stays and nobody enters the transfer portal next season. I would not be surprised if that happens. To answer the question, though, I mean, it is apples and oranges because football is entirely different. But Lance Leipold went 2-10 his first season. Jerome Tang is going to flirt with the a record that's going to be above 500. I fully believe that. Obviously, Rio Grande Valley and Washburn aren't good teams. I know we can't take a ton of stock into these first 2 games that we've seen, but they're going to be good. They're going to be competitive. Their defense is tough, and just the athleticism, man. You're going to have off nights, and I feel like when Bruce Weber's teams had off nights, you're kind of toast, because when you rely on the things they relied on, you can't win games. But with this team, they're going to find ways to be in every single game. And just the matchups, how hard you work in practice, you have to be giving it your 100% with this team. And that's really what is different with really any, basketball team that we've had in Manhattan. I know Frank Martin's teams, played hard and all that, but, the starting 5 was relatively consistent, right?
Yeah.
Depending on matchups, depending on how hard you're playing in practice, 9
different guys can start on this
literally
team.
Dorian Finister could start. Who knows? Depends how hard, your starting spot is very fragile. We saw that, Masood started the exhibition game, and then Tomlin got the nod last night or Monday night. And and we talked about the technical foul that Tomlin had last night. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of the starting lineup. Tang was angry at him on the sidelines, and I'm sure Tomlin understands what he did isn't the characteristics of what they want to be doing at K-State with culture. So there's no bad blood. Tomlin didn't do anything wrong. He just kind of celebrated a little bit too long, but Tang made it clear that ain't flying, and he got him out of the game. I don't think Tomlin went back in after that. So it's such a different, culture of basketball that we really haven't been around. I know Frank Martin was tough and gritty defense and just pesty defense, all that stuff, but this is just something special, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Frank Martin was tough love. Bruce Weber was permissive love. Like, okay, you're doing this wrong, okay. And Jerome Tang just wants to build a family. I feel like most of what Jerome Tang's done with this program has been in that locker room and making sure the guys will go to war with each other. It's something that I'll have about 3 minutes of thoughts on.
The way they celebrated Keontae Johnson, to me, that just tells you everything you need to know. You know what another thing is? When these guys, after they beat Washburn, and then after they beat RUT, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they come out and they walk around the arena and they give the fans high fives.
And give the students. I love it.
Everybody, not just the students.
They do winter all the way around.
Everybody.
It starts by the tunnel and they go all the way around.
Oh, it shows how much I was paying attention to the game.
I'd be curious.
I don't think they need to do that. Honestly, I don't. I think it's cool for all the kids that might get a chance there.
I think that's what it's for.
Yeah, but mostly what I like about it is it rewards the students and makes them stick around, which a lot of them left, which I don't blame them. It was a non-conference game. It was a blowout. It's a Monday night. They probably got stuff to do with school the next day, but yeah, I think it's cool.
What about when this team loses? I think the last thing you want to do after a loss as a player is go around and, take 2 minutes. Obviously when you win, it's great.
I don't think they're going to.
Oh, they 100%
when
will
you
do
lose, I think they will still do it, but it's not going to be as joyful as we saw it, on Monday night.
But that just talks about the program too, though. That's the characteristics of the program, because at the end of the day, Tang always talks about family. You're building that relationship between your fans and your players. If you get your butt kicked by 15, you're not going to want to, but
win or lose.
That just seems like something that they will enforce.
So how about this? Maybe, by the way, how oblivious am I? I didn't realize there was a DJ.
Awesome, by the way.
I didn't realize the DJ is set up right in front of the band, which is literally right next to us. Was I in my own world? I was just so happy to be able to see the game. I didn't look around, apparently.
I was in my own world, Fitz.
Yeah.
Cole's taking over-unders on how many times I jump out of my seat when the band starts playing.
Yeah, it's a little bit loud. But anyhow, I think they should just turn post-game, after a loss, turn the DJ stand into a shot station. So the guys can come through all the high fives, then pick up a fireball and throw it down and then throw it at the band.
I need to be pouring the shots, though, right?
You are qualified to do so.
I have a bartending degree.
Yes.
So random. We need to end it.
We got to get out of here. Are we done? Is that it?
Oh, yeah. I want to ask this question. This question is from Cole Carmody to Zach. Do you still think K-State would lose to Washburn?
Any given night.
Any given night.
Okay.
Kansas State basketball plays
Not after last night.
Friday night at Cal. It's actually a 6 p.m. Central game, a very strange tip time. That's 4 p.m. in Berkeley. I don't understand what they're doing. Maybe I don't know. But K-State, now good luck finding the game. It's on the Pac-12 network, and the Pac-12 network, it's hard to find if you're in a Pac-12 state.
If you want to watch the game, just DM Ryan Gilbert.
Drop by the house.
Come on over.
It is on selected cable platforms.
I tried to invite Go-Go, and
he's being fishy about this. Mm-hmm. He's up to something.
I don't think he likes me.
But nobody does.
He probably heard about the dead bodies that we have stored away.
We shouldn't say that on the podcast. If you have like what was it Fubo? What's the streaming service? And Sling, and there's something else, DirecTV Stream. I don't know. There's not many places to have it. We're gonna have to find a place in Waco, guys. I don't know. I have no idea.
Genuinely, good luck.
Yeah, we'll probably start at a Hooters. That's just how we roll.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.